Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to estimate a regression model, how to create a dummy variable and incorporate it in a regression model. And then I will also briefly explain how you interpret regression result. And all these are in relation to your group written assignment. So first of all, I share the group assignment document to briefly explain which model you need to estimate. So probably all of you had a chance to look at your assignment document and you know that you need to estimate this regression model, right? Where you have in the left-hand side, individual banks stock return, and in the right-hand side, you have three explanatory variables. The left-hand side variable is known as the dependent variable, and the right-hand side variables are known as independent variable. The main purpose of a regression model is to explain the variation in the dependent variable, which is the bank's stock return, by the independent variable. So what we want to find out is which explanatory variable, market return, interest rate changes, and exchange rate changes, which of these variables contribute significantly to the variation in individual banks' stock return. Okay. So this is the model you need to estimate. Then you also need to extend this model by incorporating a dummy variable. Okay, so first of all, I will show you how you estimate a regression model in Excel. Then I will also show you how you incorporate a dummy variable. In another video, I have showed you how to download data for this written assignment purpose. So I'm assuming that you have this data ready for estimation. So I stop share and I share the Excel file. Okay, I hope all of you can see my Excel file. So you should have an Excel file like this, okay? And you should have this variable. For example, this is individual bank stock return, and these three are the explanatory variables: market return, interest rate change, and exchange rate change. You need not to look at what data I have, because you will collect your own data and you will prepare your own data. So the main purpose here is to show you how you estimate a regression model. And probably you can see that my data starts from February 2005, whereas your sample period is January 2005. So when you have a stock price data like January and February and you calculate return from the second period, because return formula is today's price minus yesterday's price. So February price minus January price. That's why one return has been lost. And to avoid this, you can start the data from December 2004. Then you can get the data so that you have the return available from January 2005. Okay. However, if you have data from February 2005, that's also fine. For just one observation, your estimation results are not going to change significantly. Okay. So to estimate the regression, you first of all need to click this data tab, and you need to have this data analysis here. Okay. Now, this data analysis is an add-in which may not have been added automatically in your Excel. If you do not find this data analysis here, you should add in. So File, Options, Add-ins, Excel add-ins. So you click Go. And you can see this analysis toolpack. So you need to click this box, analysis toolpack, and okay, then you will have this data analysis tab here. Once again, File, Options, Add-ins, Go, and click this analysis toolpack box. Okay. So you have this data analysis tab here, which you need to click, and this regression, you need to select regression, Click OK. And as I previously mentioned that in the left-hand side, you will have the dependent variable, which is the individual stock return. So I select this Commonwealth Bank, shift control down arrow. So whole column will be selected, right? And in X range, you will have the independent variables. So these three are your independent variables. So I select all these and then until the last observation, and you need to click labels because we have column title. Okay, and okay, so the regression is done. Okay, so I just delete these numbers because we don't need these numbers here. You can say, although there are lots of numbers here, you don't need to worry about all of them. Just you need to explain few of them. For example, you should explain R square. You should explain R square, this F statistic, this coefficients, and this p-value. I just make them easily understandable. Okay. So as I told you previously that the main purpose of a regression model is to find out that how much of the variation in the dependent variable is explained by the independent variable. This is indicated by this R square, and you can see that it is 51%, which means that 51% of the stock return variation is contributed by these three risk factors: market risk, interest rate risk, and exchange rate risk. Okay, and this F statistic, it should be less than 0.5%. And this is F statistic, and its p-value, since this F statistic is very large, its p-value must be like here it is. So you can see, so its p-value is 0. Okay. Okay, once again, I delete them. And okay, so you can see that this is less than 5%, which means that this overall model is statistically significant. So overall model statistically significant means that the significant portion of the variation in the dependent variable is explained by the independent variables. Okay, this is the first point. And second point is you should look at the coefficient of these explanatory variable and their p-values. Okay, so once again, if these p-values are less than 0.5%, it means that they are statistically significant at the 5% level, okay, or 95% confidence level. So now you can see that for S&P SX 200, that means from the market risk and for the interest rate risk, the p-values are less than 5%, but for this one, it is greater than 5%. So which means that these two variables are statistically significant, right? These two variables, which means that, look, stock return variations is significantly affected by individual stock return variation is significantly affected by the market risk and also interest rate risk, because these two variables are statistically significant as their t statistics are very high and their p-value is less than 0.5%. So which means that if you look at this model, we tried to explain individual stock return variation by three explanatory variables, and we see that out of these three explanatory variables, two of them are statistically significant. It means that these two variables significantly explain the variation in individual stock return. So if I tell you a couple of more points, and you can see that both of these coefficients are positive, it means that increase in market risk, increase in interest rate risk should increase in the stock return, because you know that the higher risk must be compensated by higher return. Or in other words, you can say that as market return increases or as interest rate increases, the stock return should increase. Okay. And you can see that S&P ASX market returns coefficient is 0.95, which means that 1% change in the market return will bring 0.95%, or 1% increase in the market return will result in 0.95% increase in the individual stock return. And you can see that interest rate change coefficient is 0.05. It means that 1% change in interest rate will result in 0.05% change in 1% change in interest rate will bring 0.05% change in the individual stock return. Okay, so this is how you explain the regression results. So to summarize, you explain a couple of points: R squared, and then statistical significance of the overall model, which variables are statistically significant, and what is their relationship, positive or negative. Okay. So this is your baseline model. You should estimate this model for individual banks, and you should put this result in a table and explain them, whether you find any variation within the Australian banks and within US banks, and when there is any variation across these two groups, and if there is any economic reason behind this. Okay. So I go back to the data. So like this is the data we use for regression. Now for the extended model, you need to create a dummy variable, okay, for GFC. Look, dummy variable essentially indicate the presence or absence of a condition or of an event. For example, in this case, adding a GFC dummy aims to find out whether GFC had any impact on the stock returns of individual banks. Okay, so what we typically do is like we put 0 in all of them, except, sorry, we started from the top. We put 0 in all of the cells, and then we will put 1 in the month corresponding to GFC. I don't know what is the GFC period exactly. It is your task to find out what is the GFC period. So let's assume that GFC period is from July 2007. So I put it 1 to say July or June 2009. So this is just a approximation. You need to clearly find out, and you need to provide a reference. Why did you find that GFC period? So you can see that all of them are 0, except you have 1 in the month corresponding to GFC. Okay, so this variable essentially is 0, 1, 0, 1. That's why we call it dummy, and 1 indicates GFC. Okay, now if this variable is statistically significant, it will indicate that GFC had a statistically significant impact on the individual bank's stock return. Now we run the regression once again in the very same way. So data analysis, and we already have the dependent variable in the wide end, and independent variable we need to incorporate the dummy too. So these 4 are the independent variable. Previously we had 3, now we have 4, and okay, so this is our regression result now. Okay, so this is how we incorporate the GFC dummy, and you explain the regression results the same way I explained previously. Okay, so in summary, this is how you need to estimate the regression model for your written assignment, and you need to put all this data organized way in a table, and you need to interpret these results. Okay, so when you interpret this result, keep it in mind that don't just interpret statistical result like this variable is significant for this bank, not for that bank. Try to provide some economic interpretation. Okay, so try to provide some intuitive interpretation why the result might vary across the banks or across the countries. Okay, so thank you very much. In addition to what I have discussed, if you have any question or if you want any clarification, don't hesitate to get back to me. Okay, so thank you very much.